Do it.
All right.
Hey guys, Vico here. Welcome back to the channel. Object 97 on YouTube. I saw your request and I'm honoring that request. You're about to get the full-blown Panzer II review for World of Tanks Blitz. Everybody else, if you haven't played the Panzer II much, if you're a newer player, there is going to be gameplay review on the do's and don'ts of what to do, what to expect with the Panzer II, to include game specifications, but I figured I'd give you the history first. It was the main German light tank of World War II. Both the Panzer I and II were considered as stopgaps before the arrival of more advanced models, namely the better-known Panzer III and IV. Despite this, the Panzer II remained in service throughout the war, being the main light tank in German service and being used as a scout, although many wheeled vehicles performed the specialized task far better. In this particular role, the Panzer II lacked both speed and range. It was gradually improved and produced until 1943, as no satisfactory replacement was ready in time. The origins of this model date back to 1934, when it became apparent to the Waffenamt, Military Ordnance Bureau, that delays in the production of the Panzer III and IV led to the need of a new design to quickly replace the Panzer I. The specifications required a 10-ton tank with a 20mm autocannon. Krupp, AG, Daimler-Benz, MAN, Henschel, Son AG were all contacted and submitted their designs to the Waffenamt in 1935. The Krupp design was rejected, and a marriage of the Daimler-Benz hull and MAN chassis were chosen instead. This led to overall 10 prototypes during late 1935, initially named LAS 100. Production was approved the same year. The general features, basically the accepted design was an enlarged Panzer I with a turret bearing the new Rheinmetall Quick L55 20mm quick-firing flat cannon. The armament was derived from the 2cm Flak 30, capable of a firing rate of 600 rounds per minute. The purpose of such a gun was to have good armor-piercing capabilities due to its high velocity and high rate of fire, being especially effective at short range against most light and medium tanks at the time. The Quick 30 was aimed through a TZ F4 gun sight. Normal provision was 180 rounds of armor-piercing and high explosive, and 2,250 for the coaxial 7.92mm. The Rheinmetall Borsig Model 34 machine gun. Oh, I'm reading this off of Tanks Encyclopedia. I'm just surprised where these crisscross. As the Spanish Civil War showed, a dramatic increase in armor was urgently needed, and the first designs incorporated integral 14mm homogeneous steel armor, which was sufficient against shrapnel and bullets. However, it was not immune to many high-velocity 37mm anti-tank weapons at the time, or the French 25 and 47mm, including the Soviet 45mm towed anti-tank guns. The engine. Nearly the entire series was the gasoline-powered 6-cylinder Maybach HL62 TRM, providing 140 horsepower, coupled with a ZF transmission with 6 gears plus reverse. It was reliable, although it limited any major increases in armor and armament due to significant losses both in speed and range. The first pre-series vehicles were fitted with small wheels sprung in pairs under these 3 bogies, a system very similar to the Panzer I suspension. However, for reliability and mass production, a new system of 5 individually sprung larger wheels was chosen. The upper part of the track was supported by 3 return rollers, increased to 4 on the production version. The crew size of 3 was a progress over the Panzer I, but the commander was also the main gunner, sitting in the turret seat. The driver sat at the front of the vehicle. The loader and radio operator was situated, this is one and the same person, was situated on the floor under the turret, operating a Fug 5 USW receiver and 10-watt transmitter. The radio gave a clear advantage to the Panzer II over previous models and foreign opponents. It goes on into the multiple different variants. We've seen the Panzer IIG, which is a little more armor. The Panzer II, the C was used in Russia, mainly Operation Barbarossa. The 2F, the two different variants of the 2F, and the 2D used in Poland. The 2J, I think, I'm going to have to look here, I think there was only 10 actually made. All but in name, the 2J was the Panzer II. An up-armored Panzer I was more so what it was. We all know the Panzer IIG in the game, and essentially all the specifications in World of Tanks Blitz are exactly the same as with regard to the armor profile. The Panzer IIL, the Lux, most famous reconnaissance tank of the Wehrmacht, and the final version of the Panzer II. Its new hull, drivetrain and engine, new tracks and interleaved wheels, new suspension, better armor, radio and internal equipment made the Lux made this model well suited for the task. The cutest tank in World of Tanks and World of Tanks Blitz by far. Well, how does it work in World of Tanks Blitz? Let's take a look. Okay, the Panzer II, situated at Tier 2 in World of Tanks Blitz. I like it. I recommend, before we begin, that you definitely load it with provisions, the right kind of ammunition. You'll notice my ammo loadout is ridiculous. You will not need that much APCR or gold ammo. And equipment, it's really up to you. Before I get into the specifications, the consumables I run, at lower tiers, you tend to be on mines a lot. So what I do is I run an engine boost to get up to the hill, and a normal repair kit and a multi-purpose just in case. Full provisions if you can afford it. Any little bit helps. Like I said about the ammunition, you can do whatever you want, but I just run that just to do it. And this is my opinion for the equipment. I run vents to get that reload faster and just improve overall crew skills. Because it's an autoloader, you're going to need an enhanced gun laying drive to let that aiming reticle shrink between your shots. When we get into the gameplay, I'll show you what I'm talking about, how to space your shots out so you get the best aim possible so you don't miss as much. And then, of course, coated optics. I'm not going to be sitting still too long, so I don't recommend running binoculars. With regard to the stats themselves, as you can see, protection, firepower, shot effectiveness, and maneuverability. The tank does get around relatively decent. You need to pay attention to the hull armor. On the front, it's 30 millimeters, but in some places, when angled correctly, you will bounce shots, especially from a T7 combat car and lesser armored, or lesser powerful, I should say, autoloaders like the T1 Cunningham. Autoloaders in particular, if you angle properly at Tier 2, against other Tier 2s I should say, you can bounce. Even the sides at 20 millimeters, which is why over-angling I don't recommend too much as far as a habit to get into, but you can bounce some weird shots. The rear, however, don't show your butts at people. 15 millimeters, especially unangled, you'll pen. The turret armor, people would be foolish to shoot you at Tier 2. Going up against Tier 3s, sorry, sometimes you're gonna suck. But against same tier and Tier 1s, they'd be foolish to shoot you in the turret, in the sides, especially if you angle your turret, and in the rear. Maneuverability, it's semi-decent. It'll get you around the battlefield. I mean, you're at Tier 2. As a newer player, I recommend you follow the gameplay more so than paying attention to stats. With regard to shell damage, it's important not to miss your shots. 15 damage a shot. At, on average, between 29-49 penetration, 75 rate of fire. The reload is pretty nice. So while you're reloading, you can reset camo, relocate. 8 shells in the magazine at typical alpha damage, between 9 and 15, so 11-ish. I don't have the actual soft stats in front of me. You really don't need to load gold unless you're going up against some premium tier 3s like the S35, stuff like that. The dispersion, again, talking about that bloom of your aiming reticle, if you take a couple shots, let it shrink. Take a couple shots, let it I can't say shrink. I'll explain it in a minute, but that dispersion can be fixed, which isn't too bad, as long as you space your shots out, unless you're directly against somebody either by side hugging them or you're trying to get as much shots out as possible. We talked about the turret and the suspension. Don't be going over cliffs, and I think you'll be okay. But hence the double repair kits. I think that's enough for looking at stats. Let's see how the Panzer II actually performs in its tier and against lower tiers and higher tiers. Okay, so the first match here is a tier 2 match. My biggest concern on the enemy team is the T-18 and the BT-2 because of its mobility. T2 lights can be harassing, yes, but their penetration is and rate of fire is semi-comparable to mine. So as long as I don't just try to one-on-one them, there won't be too much of a problem. And so the typical camping spot is those bushes over to the right on the right side of the screen. And at lower tiers, that's what I tend to see is the 2 bush camping spots on this map. What I want to try to do is get in this bush and get spots, but I got spotted by something. And it was that T2 light. So I back off, move forward a little bit to let camo reset, wait a second, there's the other T2 light. I peek out, try to get some spots, watching the map, there's only 2 spotted so far. Our team is sort of sticking together, which is nice, except for our, one lone wolf out there. Now, I'm not shooting. I don't want to shoot just yet. Now I shoot. I'm spotted. I back off, let camo reset. I didn't shoot right away in order to see if any other spots would happen. Fire discipline, really. All the enemy team, for the most part, is on the other side, so I can get some shots. Now, watch this here. This is where auto-aim is problematic. I'm doing marginal damage here, so I back off. Do I go for the reload? Oh, I get a couple more shots and reload on my own. Turn my hull, thinking he's going to come around, and he doesn't. I get a couple more shots with my horrible... The auto-aim is... That's where auto-aim... You need to wean yourself off of auto-aim. I'm spotted, so I move forward. T2 light with that dispersion isn't going to be too much of a problem. The cap is going off. I'm not going to have to worry about the 2 over to my far right, but I need to take care of that cap, and I think somebody says stay in place and defend. Yeah, there it is. Bad idea. Try to go after the T2 light because I can take him out easy, but he moved off. The T7 combat car here, now my armor's angled. See how my armor is angled? And with the poor penetration and no APCR, the T7 combat car wasn't a problem at all. So against lower pen autoloaders, if you angle your Panzer II armor, you will not have issues. Now, the T1 Cunningham here, another autoloader, no problem. He either loaded gold or I wasn't angled correctly and it doesn't look like I was, so I try to adjust and empty my magazine into him with no problems. So the T2 light here, here's where I do something a little foolish, but it worked. I go after him, no shots, no damage into him. Looking at the map quick, everybody seems okay. So I do something foolish and go after the T2 light. Now watch my auto aim here. Try to get a lead shot through the bushes. Yeah, that didn't work at all, did it? No. So I try again. I set up the shot, try to lead the shot, and yeah, there it is. And then he has something funny to say in chat about taking you long enough. Well, yeah, well, you're in a very, very fast, maneuverable T2 light. So, whatever. I went and chased after him, and that costed my team on this side of the map their place in the game. So now me and a T-18 have to clean up. think about going after the BT2, but that would leave the T18 alone. And here, for newer players, this is what you need to do. And you're in a situation like this, 2-on-2, get over and pair up with your buddy. And that's exactly what I do. I come over here with the T18 and pair up with him. Now somebody's in the cap, but we are together. We can work together to win. Instead of trying to YOLO it, go by yourself and try to save the game. So the T18's in the cap. I don't know which way he's facing, and I think I load APCR. I do, just in case I have to get some quick pins in the front. I would avoid that if you're trying to make some money. He pokes out and he's sideways, so I get a couple in. I'm going to take a shot, but he does not have the derp. I see the BT2, I back off so I can only get shot by one guy, and I take the T18 out no problem. Go after the BT2 here. I know I'm going to take some shots, but I can take more than he can. Now watch this juke I do here. He tries to shoot me. Juke to the right, he misses, and the T18 takes him out no problem. That was good teamwork. That's how you do it. Notice the aiming I did, letting the reticle shrink before I shot from distances. When I was up close, you can empty the whole magazine. And because it's not the most maneuverable Tier 2 light tank, I paired up with the T18 in order to secure the win. 12 credits for the APCR fired is what it is. Okay, same map, worse problems. This is a Tier 3 match, and there's 2 Martyr 2s there that can take me out, and a T46 if he has the top gun at the Tier 5 gun. So this is from the other side at least. Now the Keeney is camping the typical camping spot, but our T46 is pushed and he's spotting that bush very well, and the Panzer II is out in the open and a little hesitant to push forward. I don't want to push out past. I'm not the best armored tank at that angle trying to cut across to the building. They'll see my sides, but there is one enemy that decides to get himself spotted. So watch my aiming reticle. Shrink. Got the shot out, but I was about to take another one, and I was going to let the aiming reticle shrink a little bit. You need to be sure that from distances, not ridiculous distances like across the end of the map, but medium distances, you need to let your aiming circle shrink. We talked about angling already. We talked about the mobility. I showed you the armor if angled correctly. Aiming circle is the highlight of this particular video. And watch this this little cut right here in the side of the building. If you're in a taller tank, that's a great sniping spot. I'm using the buildings as cover, but I get just a sliver of the T46, and he does not have the top gun on it. I put a few shots in. Notice the aiming circle shrinks first. I don't remember why I loaded APCR for this particular instance, and I think that was a mistake on a reload attempt. If you open your ammo and double tap on the ammo selection, if you didn't know this, you can reload quickly. Well, the reload cycle is the same, but you can reload without having to empty your whole magazine by doing it. I make a mistake here with the Valentine 8 anti-tank. I try to shoot him in the sides. He's got too much armor in his hull. I need to go for the shield. I go for the hull instead, and I bounce all my shots. And now I'm spotted. It's a good thing nobody else is camping that bush. I take a look at the map. And there's a Martyr 2 that I can probably harass. Aiming. I let a couple go in, and I get into cover. Peek one more time. He's looking at me. I'm not going to play with that. I'm not going to sit sideways onto a Martyr 2 so he can ammo rack me. Note the reload. I'm also letting my camo reset. Peek out. I'm not spotted. The Jihad takes care of spotting the Martyr 2 for me. Aiming, let it shrink. A couple shots, and I let a couple go, but I don't get the kill, unfortunately. The Keeney got it. So now it's 5-on-2. No problem to push. I'm going to go put pressure on the cap circle. Hopefully the alarm confuses them, disorients the enemy. No problem. There's my opposite number of Panzer II, and I still have the, I don't remember what it is, T18 or another Martyr 2, yes. So Panzer II is not a problem yet. I'm looking for the Martyr 2. Where did he go? Ours is hunting him down. There he is. He's spotted. No problem going in after him. I don't think he's pointed at me. Nope. I got the drop on him in the nick of time. Okay, real quick, here's an example of what not to do in the Panzer II, let alone any tank. Look at the mini-map first. Everybody's going to the other side of the map. Well, you should really go with them, because if you're solo, especially on this map, what is this, Copperfield? I don't remember. Here I am, alone. I haven't played in a while either. So I'm like, oh, I'll just go over here. Yeah, the turret's got 30 millimeters of armor, but that's a Panzer 35T. And then a Panzer Jag 1 with better pen. So yeah, I peek my head out.
Hey, I poke out of my head!
All these shots. And this was the first game I played today in this series of games that you've watched. So take it for what it's worth. I'm not the best player on the planet, and I definitely remembered, hey, I shouldn't be doing that. Hence the first game with the Top Gun. So I peek out, spot these guys, try to aim at the Panzer II, and the Panzer Jag 1 takes me out. So there you have it, guys, the Panzer II. I hope you liked the video you saw. Some of what not to do: angling, letting the aiming reticle shrink, showing the mobility and the semi-mobility sometimes in some instances. That flat cannon, that 20 millimeter flat cannon, which I recommend you put on it as soon as you can, it's pretty good. Take the Panzer II for what it's worth. Take the ammo loadout, the provisions, and the equipment, what I said, take that for what it's worth. And get in your Panzer II 2J and let me know what you think if you're a newer player. If you're a more experienced player, I assume you already have one and you steel clubbing it from time to time. If you've liked what you've seen so far, please give this video a like. It lets me know I'm doing a good job. If you're not a subscriber already, go ahead and give us a subscribe here. I'm really trying to build a bigger community. If you'd like to help build a bigger community, please see my Patreon link in the card above and in the video description below. I'm really trying to do better things and do it more often. And sponsors, if you will, those help. Until next time, I'll see you guys out there.